Okay. Hey, how you doing, Charles?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing today,
I'm
Lee?
doing all right.
All right.
Yeah,
That's what we're
we're
talking about.
we're doing Steve Miller's Brave New World.
The Steve Miller Band, Brave New World.
Well, Steve
Yes,
Miller
correct.
Band.
Yeah.
You know,
This
like
is
like if
second.
I look under Steve Miller for Brave New World, it won't come up. If I put band, it
It
will.
will.
And then if
That's
there's one
correct.
that says the Steve Miller Band, it won't come
Wow.
up unless I put the. I found that
Right.
happening a lot. It happened with
Yeah.
Gary Burton. I wanted an album by Gary Burton, but it was by the Gary Burton Quartet, not Gary Burton Quartet. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
that sucks. Yeah,
Yeah,
semantics suck.
yeah.
Um, Now, I know we did another Steve Miller Band album
Yeah, I forget what
a
one.
while ago. It was the one before this, I believe.
Was
And
it Sailor?
I believe so.
Okay.
But now, for sure, Jeff Skunk Baxter was in the band then. He
Hmm.
wasn't on this. He wasn't on this. This is the first album without Skunk Baxter. And I
I
find it
didn't know
really
that he
interesting.
was on any.
Oh, yeah. He was actually, you know, who taught Skunk Baxter to play guitar was Steve Miller.
Huh.
So very interesting. Yeah, very interesting
That's
stuff.
some I didn't know.
Right. Skunk Baxter, you know, one of them great doobies.
Yeah.
He's one of them great Doobie Brothers. He's a pretty
Yeah.
damn good guitar player in his own right. But
Yeah, he wasn't in the original version of that group, but he was in the later version.
yeah, was Michael McDonald in that group? That version?
Not the very first, but later, yes.
No, not the first. But was he with Skunk Baxter?
Yes, for a while.
That's a line. That's a lineup right there. I mean, come on.
On the
Anyway,
Minute by Minute album.
let's get back to Stephen Miller Band. Anyway, that's what I read. I didn't know either. Skunk Baxter originally was in this band.
Yeah.
He left at this point. I think it's just Steve Miller on the guitars. Now we do have somebody, a special guest later on. We'll talk about that person later, but for the most part, the majority of the album is Steve Miller. I'm not really sure the other guys' names until we do the review because I wrote them down.
Yeah.
And this is still kind of now for the fans of Steve Miller Band that likes, you know, the Joker or Keep on Rocking Me, those types of songs.
Yeah.
This was a different era for Steve Miller Band, I would
Yeah.
say, right, Lee?
Yeah. But I also have to say that the people who I grew up with in the hills of Fairfax and San Summer, they liked him pretty much throughout everything. So
And
they
I'm sure, yeah, I'm
they they
totally
they they,
sure.
they just liked it. And then
I
when I
understand.
finally heard stuff like the Joker, I remember people telling me how good it was, and I was listening to it, and I still need to hear it again after the 10th time to find out whether or not they were correct.
That's fair, but totally fair. I think there's honestly, to me, one track. Well, there's maybe two. We'll talk about that one too.
Mm.
But for sure, one track in the album that kind of points to what perhaps Steve Miller would do later on,
Mm.
and really would become known for.
Mm.
But I feel, I mean, when you listen to classic rock radio, if you do, and if it's still a thing, I'm sorry, folks, I'm not always in the USA, but if it was still a thing, there's always that Keep on Rocking Me, was a jet airliner, you know, a certain type of song you'll hear a lot, which I love that jet airliner song, I really do.
Okay.
But that's just me. But I mean, there's this kind of a stereotypical Steve Miller Band sound that you might only get a little here. So if you were stuck in that zone, this might not be your cup of tea.
Mm.
But if you're a mega Steve Miller Band fan that just loves them and goes crazy, which I've yet to meet anybody that was that ape shit over 'em, but if you were, then of course you know this album because of that special guest. That would be fair, right, Lee?
Yeah,
As much as we want to give away.
I would say, regardless of who else could be on it, it would still be considered an album that the big fans liked.
Okay. And I mean, yeah, that's the way we go. But
Yeah.
this is what I think this came out in late 60s
Yeah,
sometime, 68,
probably
69.
68.
69.
Oh, either way.
I think it's 69, but close enough.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was actually what was actually recorded partially in London, and the producer was Glenn Johns and Steve Miller, so that might come up later. But
Yeah.
I'm ready to rock and roll if you are. Lee.
All right.
You can go first with the first track.
Sure, why not? Brave New World. Okay. I used to think this was a good song, but it was placed in the wrong place on the album. To me, back then it sounded like it should have been a third song or something. But now, with better sound quality from downloads, the whole album benefits from that, and I now hear this as a first track. And it is a good one. I dig it. What do you think?
The beginning is reminiscent of the Who's work at the time, and you know, in that time period a bit. And but that doesn't bother me at all. I mean, you know, but the rest of the song doesn't. Just the beginning. And
Yeah.
this is still, however, a time where Miller was embracing psychedelia, and so for the fans, like I said earlier, the Joker or Jungle Love, this might not be what you expect from Steve. Matter of fact, it reminds me a bit of songs Chicago was doing at the time, minus the horns. I do enjoy the vocal harmonies here, but it isn't that remarkable compared to other groups' output at the time. It doesn't stand out as something that would make you a fan in a contemporary sense. But it is interesting to hear Miller do something in this vein.
Okay. What do you think of Celebration Song?
Well, now this one is a bit more like it. There's a little of that psychedelic feel, but the song is structured a tad bit better than the title track for me. The drums are insane on this song, provided by Tim Davis. Yeah, I wrote down his name there because it was that good. This song has a really cool flow to it, and it sways. Interestingly enough, there's not really a discernible guitar solo that I can remember. There's a bit of wailing here and there. So Miller lets the band shine on this one. I thought it was a fun track, and I enjoyed this one a bit more in the opener.
All right, I put this track then sounded more like it could have been the first song on the album. Not that I don't think it could be a first song now, but it also works as a second song. I like it. It has an uplifting, cool quality that the Banana Splits had for me back then. I like this song. Very good.
I know.
All right. Now, the next song, Can't You Hear Your Daddy's Heartbeat? Okay. This is a cool tune and one of the better songs on an album where almost all the songs are better songs. I like the guitar crunch and I like the drive of the thing. It's really great. What do you think?
This one was written by the aforementioned drummer Tim Davis. And it makes sense as the drums are just badass right here. Very Mitch Mitchell-like. And additionally, this is the most pure rock song thus far on the record. The fuzz bass kicks in real good on it. And Steve Miller provides a guitar solo, which is more tuned to some of the classic Miller band here. This one is rather relentless from beginning to end, and I like it very much. Great track here.
All right, what do you think of Got Love, 'Cause You Need It?
That drummer, man, Tim Davis, he's got to be the MVP of this album. I mean, his drums yet again. Man, this is some playing. The keyboards work real well here, too. In addition, Miller's guitar solo smokes. I mean, it is a 12-bar blues song, but nothing wrong with that for me when it's done well, and it's done real well. Also, that harmonica's killer. Yet another badass one. These are the types of songs I enjoy from Steve Miller.
Okay, I put the beginning started like a basic blues thing that didn't interest me, though I liked the tempo of it. But then it turned into one of the best things on the album. The playing and the attitude are awesome, and it's one of my favorite songs on the album. Okay, now for Cow Cow. This sounds like it could have been a song in which, if I was the keyboard player in the band, I would have brought in the music and the band arranged it to their sound. I like it. It's one of the songs I used to listen to first when I was listening to individual tracks from various albums I had that I liked. Is it as good as the songs before it? It's different, and it holds its own, and it is as good in a different way. Maybe sometimes I prefer the bluesier numbers, but other times I might prefer this. But I like this song, and it gives the album a nice contrast. What do you think?
Well, one thing about this one, I hear some of the melody of Take the Money and Run here, which, it came after this. But,
Yeah, I hear you.
I I rarely complain, though, of ripping yourself off, and I
Yeah,
won't here. Um, Plus, this one is a slower tune than Take the Money and Run.
yeah.
It seems a little inspired by Buffalo Springfield, a little bit.
I can hear
so
that.
So lyrically, it seems attuned to things the Stones were trying to do at the time in their psychedelic attempts. I'm sure there's a deep meaning behind Cow Cow, but I wouldn't
Yeah,
have a clue what it is. It's a good song. I don't know what he's trying to say,
yeah.
but it builds an intensity and ends up rocking hard. And Miller lets loose vocally. So while a little bit unoriginal, kinda, it's an enjoyable filler track for me. Cow Cow.
Okay. I will say I read up on it, and it seemed like the Cow Cow fellow was a part of a movie, and he asked his dad about it, and his dad saw the movie, and so it was like a character from a movie, from what
And
I
I looked it up,
understand.
and I looked up Cow Cow too, and it was an ice cream place in Connecticut. So I don't know.
so,
Well, who
so,
knows?
so, Cow Cow is either maybe a cat or it's a pizza. You never know.
Yeah,
Okay.
don't know.
Yeah. What do you think of Seasons?
Well, this was opening side two of your vinyl, and you had this album, right, Lee?
I did.
Yeah. We opened up side two with another attempt at some mellow gold here, and it's understandable that because this was in vogue at the time. These profound statements about how to change the world and why life is this way. I don't think this is something we should hear from Steve Miller. And I am literally hit and miss on these type of hippie songs to begin with, and this one is no exception. I thought it was an absolute bore from beginning to end, but people that like boring songs will be all on this one. Go ahead, Lee.
Okay, I put this is a very good song, and it also sounds like something I could have written. But I think that in some parts, the way Steve Miller sings is a bit technical instead of soulful. And I think Van Morrison could have done a good version of it. Still, it is a good song. A bit understated compared to the other songs, but on its own, quite well done. Okay, now for Space Cowboy. All right. This is an excellent example of recycled ideas done on purpose to make a song that sounds fresh. I think it's possible Steve Miller hadn't come up with a brand new idea for a song, but needed to come up with a song, so he used references to other songs and then felt revitalized to make the song stand on its own. I've done that also, so kudos for him. It works. I like the song. What do you think?
Well, Midnight Hour alert, which the bass line and keyboard work, but yeah, it's like the Midnight Hour redone by Wilson Pickett. One of the main references in the song The Joker is pointed at on this song. I do like the music on this quite a bit actually. But the vocals are a tad bit weak for my liking. I'd rather listen to Midnight Hour. So at this point, the album's starting to lose me a bit. And I'm sure Steve Miller aficionados want to throw darts at me, but I am sure this is like an all-time classic, but it doesn't do much for me. And I do have a request, Lee. If you take this one, the next one first, and the last one, if I could go first.
That's fine. Okay.
All right.
LT's Midnight Dream. Okay. I do like how this song is a contrast to the other songs, and it works on the album, and I like it. But I also think the Dillards could have done a decent version of it. And what's becoming a pet peeve of mine is when in these country blues numbers, the phrase solid gone is repeated over and over. And it makes me think that if there were a bunch of rock songs where the phrase, yeah, she said, yeah, was said over and over again, I would be annoyed at that too. So that's a quibble of mine. It doesn't reach the level of better songs for that reason alone. But it does reach the level of good song, and I wouldn't skip it usually. I like the music on it. What do you think?
Well, it's written by the bassist of the band, Lonnie Turner.
Yeah.
We get a rootsy take on some blues sounds, and to me, it's as good to my ears as the acoustic blues Zepp would put out. I mean, even though, man, Led Zeppelin really kicks so much ass, right? Right, Lee?
Their electric stuff, yes.
Oh, not the acoustic stuff.
Yes,
well,
the electric.
Aside, this is a solid acoustic blues song. It's just some acoustic guitars, bass drum, and cymbals. This is a return to the roots type song, and it's better than the weaker tracks here. It's my kind of alley, so I thought it was a good track. But, can't win them all.
Yeah.
I like that kind of sound, Lee.
You like when they say solid gone over and over and over and over again?
I don't care what he's singing. I'm listening to the music.
Yeah, well, I couldn't help hearing it. It's like a bug on my arm. Anyway, what do you think of My Dark Hour?
See, this is the one, folks. This is the one with our special guest. And so when this album was being made, one day, a guy named Paul Ramon happened to be awaiting his band, who was called the Beagles, and they hadn't showed up to the same studio that Steve Miller was recording in. So the producer, Glenn John, said, well, you two should do something. And this song is the result. So Paul Ramon, he provided bass, electric guitar, backing vocals, and drums. And while you hear a difference from Tim Davis's drumming, it is surprising to hear how great this Ramon is as a drummer. Now, of course, Ramon is Paul McCartney, if one isn't aware by now. Come on, damn it. Yeah, that's why they were the Ramones, the second or third best punk band ever. While I know he is a very capable drummer, Paul McCartney, on this track, it's excellent. And I believe I read in part frustration how the Beatles were at the time, getting along and perhaps being late at the session. So he beat the drums a little harder here. For me, by far, and it's not just because of him, it's the best track on the album. And it has to be an early highlight from Steve Miller. Miller would return the favor down the road on the McCartney album Flaming Pie, so there's obviously been a fruitful friendship. And so overall, for this album, aside from a couple misses, this is an enjoyable album overall. My Dark Hour, best track on the album. Go ahead, Luke.
Yeah, aside from one kind of miss, which you really liked, it's a really good album. Anyway, really good song. A good attempt at trying to sound like Paul McCartney. I know he's on the song, but it sounds more like Steve Miller's idea of Paul McCartney. But it's still cool. I like it, and it's a fine album closer. Okay.
Yeah. So there you go, folks. I think we also like the other Steve Miller we did, which was before this. And who knows, maybe down the road, the Joker, since Lee's like, I'm not sure. Maybe. Never know.
I'm like the people, especially some people who I really, really care for and respect like this album. So I will do it for them.
Well, there you go. Somewhere down the line,
Yeah.
we'll be doing that. But as
Yeah.
always, it's fun. This was an album people should check out, and not just for my dark hour. I liked
Yeah.
most of it. So there you go.
I got it for 25 cents at the thrift store, so it was cool for me too.
That was the best 25 cents you spent in a
Yep.
while. There you go.
Well, I
Go on,
spent
take the money
many
and
of them.
run, Lee.
Yep. All right. Well, take care, everybody. Bye bye.
Cool.